Good evening, members, and welcome. Good evening. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm goes off during the meeting, please leave by the nearest emergency exit and make your way to and gather outside in Runnymede Hall. Cabinet members, please introduce yourself as listed on the agenda, starting with Councillor Warren Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Councillor Warren Gibson, Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Michael Fuller, Cabinet Member for Environment.
Evening all, Councillor Tom Gibson, Cabinet Member for Special Projects and Assets.
Good evening all, Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Good evening, Councillor Steve Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Good evening all, Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Climate Action.
Thank you, members, and I'm Councillor Dave Blackwell, Leader of the Council. Agenda item 1, apologies of absence. We take it we're all here.
No.
Oh no, sorry, Sonia, Councillor.
We've got apologies from Councillor Savage.
Russ is away, thanks. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? No, no interest. Agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of October 2024. Members, are the minutes of the meeting correct and is it agreed I sign those minutes? Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 4, members' questions on notice. Members, we have a question from Councillor Watson. Councillor Watson, would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Leader. As the Overview and Scrutiny Committee has a busy work plan, can I please ask when the first housing improvement annual report is anticipated to be ready to go to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Lillis, could you give your response, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Watson. Subject to Cabinet's agreement, we will formally launch the Housing Improvement Programme tonight, and it will come again to Cabinet in January 2025 for final details and resources to be approved. Although we are already working on improvements, I would expect that it would be the end of the financial year, so March 2025, before the first quarterly report to Cabinet would be made, and on that basis, I would suggest that a report goes to Overview and Security Committee in June 2025. That gives a full 6 months progress to report, so not an annual report, but a report within a year. I say this because it is important that early visibility on progress is shared with Overview and Scrutiny, so that any recommendations which the committee might have can be acted upon whilst the programme is still in flight. Thank you, Councillor Watson, for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Willis. Agenda item 5, following on the health check which the Local Government Association undertook last December, Cabinet members agreed that the Chief Executive should invite them back to undertake a full corporate peer challenge. So I'm going to ask Andrew, our Chief Executive, to do the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, members. Members, you'll know that a corporate peer challenge is a highly valued improvement and assurance tool that is delivered by a team of senior local government councillors and officers, undertaking a comprehensive review of key finance, performance and governance information, and then spending 3 days at a council, and they spent 3 days with us here at Castle Point to provide robust, strategic and credible challenge and support. The LGA has produced its report, which is in front of you now as Appendix 1, and I would draw your attention in particular to paragraph 5, which sets out the key features of that report. The peer team recognised the programme of transformation and change which the Council has been on since 2022, but at the same time acknowledged there was still a lot more to do in order to, open quotes, restore the council to good health and place it on a sound financial footing and ensure resilience. And I've quoted that directly from the report, members, because I think it's a really important statement of where we've come from and the journey for improvement that we continue. There was praise in the report for the improvements which have already been made in the reorganisation of the workforce, in governance and decision-making, in political and managerial leadership, and in the cultural shift of the organisation towards becoming more community-led. In particular, the peer team acknowledged the difficult decisions that the Council and the administration have been taking to address major issues and challenges, including the Castle Point Plan, housing and financial challenges. The report also reflects on the opportunity presented to the Council by moving to a 4-yearly all-out electoral cycle, allowing for enhanced strategic thinking and medium-term planning. Engagement with employees at all levels of the organisation revealed a positive cultural change, referencing sentiments of walls being broken down and facilitating more engagement across the organisation and increased joint working between teams. Workshops with partners were also positive as part of this process, with the peer team reporting a sense amongst our partners of an enhanced leadership from the Council, as well as good use of partnerships increasingly to draw in external funding to the Borough. The peer team raised a number of areas of focus, and these are reflected in the 7 recommendations set out in the report and reproduced at paragraph 5.6 of the covering report. And the plan for how those recommendations will be actioned is set out in Appendix 2 and will be published on our website alongside this full report. Some of the actions listed in the action plan are already in train. For example, the timetable to budget setting has been crystallised and the preparation of the corporate plan is fully underway. Internal communications and engagement with stakeholders and partners have been increased, starting with the publication of the Castle Point Challenge document, members, which you'll recognise, which sets out the Council's ambitious plans for the development of the Borough and how it intends to deliver them. The Local Government Association will be returning to Castle Point within the next 8 to 10 months to carry out a progress review to see how we're performing against that action plan. And on that basis, I would like to ask Cabinet to refer the action plan to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for monitoring as part of that committee's annual work plan. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I would also like to thank the Local Government Association for their report recognising the improvements made within the Council in recent years. I agree with its findings that there was still a lot more to do to restore the Council to good health and place it in a sound financial footing and ensure resilience. The peer team recognised that we've had to make a number of difficult decisions, as well as address some major issues and challenges. We have already made progress on some of the key recommendations and look forward to welcoming the peer team back in a year to demonstrate our further progress. And as the Chief Exec said earlier, I would like to also take the opportunity to promote the Castle Point Challenge, which is available on our website. We also have hard copies which we can share. We're ambitious for people and places for Castle Point, and Castle Point Challenge sets out our priorities for the coming years and how we're going to deliver them. We can't do it alone, and these priorities will be delivered working in partnership with residents, businesses and partners from across the public, private and voluntary sector. Thank you. Members, are there any questions? No questions. Then members, there's a recommendation set out in paragraph 3.1, which I hope you will note. There is also, I will move the recommendations 2 to 4. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, members. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 6, move on now to the Housing Improvement Programme. Councillor Rob Lillis, please introduce your item.
Thank you, Chair. The Council's housing services are undergoing a significant review that will improve how it meets the needs and demands of our tenants and to provide assurance to senior officers and members as to its performance of the role as corporate landlord and registered provider of social housing. The purpose of the report before you is to set out the steps and processes which will comprise the Council's housing improvement programme to achieve this. The Regulator for Social Housing, hereafter referred to as the Regulator, was established in 2018 when the regulatory functions of the Homes and Communities Agency were transferred into the new organisation. The Social Housing Regulation Act 2023 provides the legal framework for the regulator to undertake the regulation of social housing providers, including local councils. The regulator has a number of economic and consumer objectives, and to ensure compliance with those objectives and standards, has since 1st of April 2024 had the legal powers to undertake regulatory inspections of social landlords, which includes the council. The regulator has set out its new consumer standards for social housing landlords, designed to protect tenants and improve the service they receive. These changes came into force on the 1st of April 2024, and the regulator now regulates social landlords according to these standards. The 4 consumer standards are: 1. The safety and quality standard; 2. The transparency, influence and accountability standard; 3. The neighbourhood and community standard; and 4. The tenancy standard. Links to the regulator's website and the Social Housing Regulation Act 2023 are set out in Appendix 1. As part of the new standards, the Council was required to implement new tenant satisfaction measures in April 2024 using data gathered through 23-24. However, as a result of human error, the deadline for completing the tenant satisfaction surveys, which was 31st of March 2024, was missed. The regulator was advised of this, and the survey was conducted in the spring for submission by the deadline at the end of June 2024. Furthermore, as the survey was not conducted on time, the number of responses which the Council received did not meet the requirement of 300. As a result, in September 2024, the regulator issued a regulatory judgment and gave the Council a C3 rating. The regulator's rating system is based on 4 scales, C1 to C4. C3 is defined as, and I quote, "Our judgment is that there are serious failings in the landlord delivering the outcomes of the consumer standards and significant improvement is needed," unquote. The Council has acknowledged the findings of the regulator and accepted the comments in relation to the failure to meet the deadline for submission of the tenant satisfaction survey data for 2023 to 2024. The tenant satisfaction survey for 24-25 is already underway and seeks to bring the Council in line with the requirements of the regulator moving forward. We have explained to the regulator that the Council is undergoing significant organisational reform, which will reshape and refocus our governance processes and how we deliver our service and engage with our customers and clients in a transparent and positive way. Best practice and learning gathered through the LGA Corporate Peer Challenge and consultation exercises with our customers will be part of our transformation. As such, the Council is committed to positively engaging with the regulator with a view to incorporating their findings into its transformation journey. As it is the role of the regulator to inspect every social landlord in the country, at some point this would have included the Council. However, in light of the regulatory judgment, the regulator is now undertaking a wider inspection of the Council's housing service. As part of this, the regulator visited the Council yesterday in order to physically inspect the housing service. I would like to thank Jessica Guandolini, Alison Napper and Scott Conroy for their visit and for the constructive atmosphere that pervaded our meeting. The inspection is designed to test whether the Council is meeting the required standards and, if not, whether the council is aware and has a robust improvement plan that demonstrates how the council can meet the standards. Finally, the regulator will test whether the council has the capacity and capability to improve, with a commitment to do so. In response to the regulator's requirements, initial data and information about the service was sent to them. This was reviewed and has enabled the regulator to identify the specific areas it wishes to focus its inspection on. However, the regulator can, during the inspection, look at any aspect of the housing service, and, in addition, the council is under a positive duty to highlight to the regulator any areas outside of the scope of the inspection where there are concerns about how the council meets the standards. This is known as self-referral. Failure to self-refer during an inspection could lead the regulator to the regulator discovering issues of concern that the council is aware of but did not raise, which could significantly affect their judgment on the service. Therefore, before and during the inspection, the council is committed to be completely transparent in dealing with the regulator. As part of the preparatory work for the inspection, officers have been undertaking an assessment of the service against the consumer standards. This self-assessment is highlighting where the service does not meet the specified standards and where it does not, whether in whole or in part. In addition, the Assistant Director of Housing, Health and Partnerships has been carrying out the Housing, Health and Partnerships Service Review. This work has identified some critical and significant areas of concern that were self-referred to the regulator on the 5th of November 2024. Under data integrity, our collection, monitoring, escalating and reporting of data relating to housing services is inconsistent and therefore not fully fit for purpose. There is no single IT system, and the systems that we do have don't talk to one another. Data is collected by the council, South Essex Homes as the planned maintenance provider, and MCP as the reactive repairs provider. But consolidation and cross-checking needs improvement. This does not necessarily mean that the data does not exist, but without clear sight of the data, we cannot be assured that it is complete or consistent. This means that the quality and integrity of what data we do have is compromised, and there is no single version of the truth upon which the council can place reliance. Irrespective of where responsibility for collecting and maintaining the data lies, the legal accountability remains with the council, and we have to take ownership of the problem. The risks which arise as a consequence present significant challenges to the effective running of the service within its regulatory and legislative requirements. In respect of responsive repairs, tenants contact the repairs contractor MCP direct. This creates a risk of the council not having full sight of when tenants do contact them and how the information and repairs are being recorded. We have already taken immediate steps to begin to clarify, codify and quality assure existing data, and we will be implementing new data collection procedures, including training of staff and working with internal audit to create the assurance framework against which compliance can be measured. Of particular importance is the work we are doing with our maintenance and responsive repairs contractors to provide immediate access for council officers to the property, planned works and repairs data that they hold. This will enable the council officers to undertake the data audit and provide greater transparency and assurance to tenants. Alongside of this, tenders are out for a new stock condition survey. The last survey was completed in 2018. The stock condition survey should be completed every 5 years and it is vital as it informs the Council our annual and longer-term maintenance programme. Once fully completed across the whole estate, anticipated to take between 12 to 18 months and done in batches, it will act as a reset for the maintenance programme and a new baseline for data on works undertaken and planned going forward. This reset will rebuild the integrity of the maintenance data. Furthermore, the Council will bring back in-house the first point of contact for responsive repair requests, except out of hours, so that we have oversight of what the requests are and provide assurance that the work is undertaken. Officers will investigate a new online reporting system as well as a call-in system which will provide greater sight for officers of out-of-hours repair requests. Under tenant satisfaction and engagement, our failure to adequately commission the TSM survey was the basis of the regulatory judgment, so we expected that we would find that the Council is deficient in the way in which we engage with our tenants. Moreover, we do not have an established strategy for communicating with our tenants, which creates the necessary feedback loop which enables them to influence and shape the services they receive, an important aspect of our assurance framework. This results in an inconsistent tenant experience, which is at odds with the Council's commitment to improving its customer service. In respect of repairs and planning maintenance, South Essex Homes and MCP collect their own satisfaction data, but there is no external verification, i.e. by the Council, of tenants' satisfaction. As a result, the Council has no direct oversight and too often only becomes aware of poor standards when tenants formally complain. We are setting up a focus group of tenants to co-design a new tenant engagement strategy, and as part of that, the Council will reactivate the tenants' newsletters. The TSM data collection processes have now been incepted and corrected. The survey work for 24-25 has started and communication pushed out to tenants. The process for collecting surveys will run until 31st of March each year and start again in May each year. The data will then be submitted to the Regulator for Social Housing by the end of June each year. The complaints process has been overhauled. It is ready to be brought into line with the corporate complaint processes and the new requirements of the Housing Ombudsman, with Stage 2 reviews being conducted by the Chief Executive at this moment in time. In respect of tenant satisfaction on repairs and maintenance work, the Council will introduce an internal monitoring system so that we verify the data. In addition to our contractors, the monitoring of this data will be shared with members via the Housing Improvement Programme Board. Under health and safety, the Council has a statutory responsibility for ensuring that its properties meet the relevant health and safety requirements in relation to the Big Six, that is gas, asbestos, fire, electrical, water hygiene and lifts. Compliance is non-negotiable. The deficiencies in our data means that the Council cannot say with 100% certainty that all of those requirements have been and continue to be met. This is not to say that homes are inherently unsafe, as in some areas the level of compliance is recorded as at or above targets. But the Council recognises that it needs to do a lot more to ensure robustness of data, including the recording of remedial or periodic works in order to give that full assurance. Work has already started on addressing the data issue so that the Council can gauge the true level of compliance. All contractors' work must meet the relevant regulatory standards, and certificates that show this must be produced. Additional resource has been brought in to provide oversight of compliance with the Big Six and reconcile data. In addition, a programme of testing compliance has been commissioned through Norse Group for completion by early 2025. The Norse Group work will inform the way that we roll out the stock condition survey. that will bring up to date the Council's full understanding of compliance and set out a short to long-term programme of works. As part of that, the most critical works will be prioritised, and where there is a significant risk. However, the stock condition survey will also provide the Council with a clear programme of periodic and planned maintenance. This will provide an early warning system where there is an increased risk of non-compliance. We are presently designing a communication strategy to ensure tenants are kept updated. On the 5th of November 2024, as a result of the Council's investigatory work to deliver up-to-date information to the regulator, the Council formally referred itself to the regulator in relation to the areas of concern which officers have identified. The self-referral document is set out in Appendix 2. It is necessary to take immediate action to improve the service. As a result, the Housing Improvement Programme has been developed to make sure that happens. The programme will address all the issues identified by the regulator in terms of meeting the required consumer standards, but is wider than the scope of the inspection and is intended to overhaul and modernise the entire housing service provision. The programme will be accompanied by a service review led by the Assistant Director Housing, Health and Partnerships. This will be a major reset point for the way the Council provides its housing services, meets the needs of tenants and manages its stock. The vision for the programme is to provide modern and proactive housing services which puts our tenants at the heart of delivery, ensures tenants have safe and quiet enjoyment of their homes and that their voices are heard, respected and acted upon, and fully meets the regulator's consumer standards. The programme, backed by the Assistant Director's Service Review, will establish the appropriate target operating model and supporting organisation structure to enable the Council to achieve this vision. Success of the programme will be measured against key performance indicators and other performance indicators agreed and set as part of the programme. These measures are designed to not only measure against the regulator's consumer standards, but also to inform future policy decisions. The Housing Improvement Programme Board, HIPB, is a member-led forum internal to the programme which owns the programme activity and oversees its delivery to time and to budget. The board comprises appointed members and a tenants representative or representatives. The project director and the programme manager will advise the board and call in other officers as and when required. HIPB will receive highlight reports from the Housing Improvement Programme team, HIPT, as to progress. HIPB, the board, will provide quarterly updates to the Cabinet and oversee an annual report to Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The board will meet monthly with agendas, notes and actions arising, published to all members and available for public inspection. Terms of reference and the composition of the HIPB are set out in Appendix 3. And I take this opportunity to thank Councillor Kate Knott and Councillor Jamie Huntman for agreeing to join the HIPB. The board has met in a shadow format to brief members and officers of the board and on the governance arrangements. This ensured that it can start immediately on the improvement plan it's at its first constituted meeting set for 12 December of this year. A first action will be to appoint the tenant representative or representatives. The Housing Improvement Programme team, HIPT, is an officer forum internal to the programme and pulled from various services including finance and procurement, which manages the delivery of the work underpinning the programme. Each of the workstream leads will be members of the HIPT. HIPT is led by the Programme Director, supported by the Senior Responsible Officer, who is accountable for ensuring the programme meets its objectives, delivers the projected outcomes, and realises the required benefits. A dedicated programme manager will be responsible for producing and maintaining central core programme documentation, including the programme plan, risk register, and benefits tracker. The HIPT will meet weekly. Terms of reference and the composition of the HIPT are set out in Appendix 4. The programme and its governance is presented to Cabinet for approval and allocation of a provisional ring-fence budget to support the programme set up, to include what I would loosely call a rapid response unit to help deal specifically with the Big Six repairs and maintenance issues. Work to populate the actions to be delivered by the programme is currently ongoing, and it is proposed that the detail of the programme will be quality assured by a specialist firm, Pennington Choices, and the outcomes of that piece of work will be reported to the Housing Improvement Programme Board so that any changes or recommendations can be reflected in the programme. This gives members and the public assurance that the programme is fit for purpose in achieving its vision and outcomes. It also allows for the programme to be fully resourced and for the final budget and delivery plan to come back to Cabinet in January 2025 for formal approval. We had anticipated that the final report of the regulator following the inspection would be expected in early 2025. However, we now believe that it will be earlier. The report and its findings will be publicly reported at that time. The Housing Improvement Programme Board will, as a consequence, then further review the programme in conjunction with Pennington Choices to ensure that all the issues identified by the regulator are addressed and captured for action as part of the programme. This will be reflected in the report I will be bringing to Cabinet in January. The Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee has been approached and asked to add the programme to its work plan so that it is reviewed once in every municipal year of the programme's life. The programme will also be included in the internal audit work plan for years 25-26. The programme will comprise of 5 work streams, which will run concurrently, and the order in which they are listed in the report is not reflective of any order of importance. These 5 work streams are wholly interlinked, and the achievement of these represents the success of the programme. Each work stream will have its own officer lead. Work stream 1, data integrity and assurance. This work stream will focus on ensuring that the council collects the right data, that it is quality assured and is used effectively to drive compliance with the regulator's consumer standards, business decision making, service improvements, performance management and contract management. At the moment, the council has a lot of data in different places and in different formats owned by different partners. There needs to be a comprehensive and joined up approach to data, and the council must ensure that it is arranged in a way which allows officers to interrogate it and report it publicly to members. Effective compliance and property management IT systems are required to replace existing legacy systems and address gaps in the council's data. Where data is held by contractors, repairs and maintenance, for example, a new system will need to link into the contractor's systems to enable the council to have clear sight of data for management and monitoring purposes. New policies and operating procedures are also needed, which determine how data is entered, updated and used. Training will need to be provided to the workforce. Terms and conditions for contractual partners will need to be updated and data interrogation written into any new tender documents. Internal audit will play a key role in ensuring data integrity, and periodic data audits will need to be part of the Council's standard approach to quality. Importantly, housing data needs to be considered in the same way as other corporate data. Transparency is key. Workstream 2, tenant engagement and satisfaction. The regulator prescribes the tenant satisfaction data that the Council is obliged to collect and report upon. This includes demonstrating that the Council is learning lessons and using tenant feedback to improve services. As it was the Council's failure to collect this data correctly which led to the regulatory judgment, the Council must be able to demonstrate that this cannot happen again. In addition, the Housing Ombudsman has implemented new statutory guidance which has required the overhaul of the housing complaints process to bring it in line with the corporate complaints process. This requires a new policy, new templates and internal procedures and staff training. This is being implemented through a new complaints procedure for the Council, which means that, going forward, housing complaints will be dealt with in the same manner as non-housing complaints and meet the new requirements of the Housing Ombudsman. The Council must strengthen positive engagement with tenants and empower them to play a greater role in shaping housing services in ways that will make a difference to them. Fundamental values like respect, listening and responsiveness need to be demonstrated through evidence of engagement. The Council must be reactive to complaints and proactive in communication. Workstream 3, Health and Safety. This workstream focuses on statutory compliance with the regulator's outcomes on the Big Six, as I mentioned earlier: gas, asbestos, fire, electrical, water hygiene and lifts. 100% compliance is the ultimate KPI, but there are numerous other performance indicators around commissioning, delivery, quality and performance. This workstream will require significant amount of procurement activity to commission a comprehensive programme of works and proficient contract management. There are wider aspects of health and safety which are picked up in the Council's statutory responsibilities around community safety and safeguarding. Tenant-specific aspects of those duties will need to be considered as part of this workstream. Workstream 4, Resourcing and Partnerships. The purpose of this workstream is to focus on the relationship between the Council and its contractors, South Essex Homes, Planned Repairs and Maintenance, and MCP, which are reactive repairs and maintenance, to provide a firm foundation for delivery of the programme. In addition, the Council also needs, when appropriate, to prepare options analysis for how these services are provided as these contracts come to an end, and to understand whether retendering is the right option compared to other options such as bringing the service in-house. Workstream 5, Communications. The Council cannot embark on this programme without investment in communications. There are numerous stakeholders involved in the programme, for example, tenants, other residents, members, staff, contractors, the regulator and press and media. Communications need to be adapted for those particular audiences to ensure that messaging is consistent. This workstream will also be responsible for ensuring reporting from the programme into the Cabinet and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The programme began on 1st October 2024 and will continue in line with the programme plan. The Council must be realistic in its programme to achieve maximum benefit. The Housing Improvement Programme will need to be fully integrated into the service in a way that minimises disruption to the ongoing services to our tenants. The programme will identify those improvements that are most critical, i.e. compliance and health and safety, whilst at the same time creating the platform for long-term and sustained improvement across all areas of the service. Therefore, the programme will be designed to be implemented and monitored for up to 2 years. The intention is that the most critical issues for resolution will be addressed within the first 10 months of the programme. The programme will only be stood down when the HIPB, the board, is satisfied that there is sufficient assurance in the Council's wider assurance framework to ensure that the outcomes of the programme have been and will continue to be met. There is no option for the Council to do nothing, as that would only perpetuate the status quo and not address the issues or achieve lasting change in service delivery. This administration is fully committed to delivering the best possible service for our tenants and residents. Risks will be managed as part of the programme and be reported to the programme board. A risk register is currently being developed. Risks reported to the board will be subsequently reported to Cabinet. At this point, the programme requires resources to be able to meet the immediate pressures and to be able to plan the longer-term delivery of the programme. Whilst the longer-term delivery will be subject of a future Cabinet report, it is appropriate at this stage to recruit core team members on a longer-term basis. On an interim basis, the workstream leads will be drawn from existing staff resources, with the exception of the programme manager. Currently, an external programme management resource is in place, which is providing support to the regulator inspection, develop the governance structure, and defining the housing improvement programme. The Council also have temporary external resources in place, focusing on data and compliance. The staffing resource and accompanying budgets required to deliver the programme is set out in the report before you. To support this officer structure, work is underway, or it is proposed to recruit a programme manager up to 2 years, administrative support in post, contract managers for planned maintenance and responsive repairs, a building surveyor, and a tenant liaison officer. I take this opportunity to thank Angela Hutchings, Ian Butt and Damien Geller for their help and assistance in drafting this very important report. The regulator has its eyes on our borough. It needs to know that we can own and address our failings. This is our commitment to do just that. And Chair, if you would further indulge me, I believe there are 4 questions that will be at the forefront of those present or watching's minds this meeting tonight. I'll have a sip of water. The first question: how can this have happened? We must accept that the failure to properly address the tenants' satisfaction measures in the early part of this year is a mistake which happened on our watch, and we own that mistake. But I was tasked with looking at detail at housing when I took up the portfolio in May. We knew as part of the transformation work that every single service area across the council needed review, and that anecdotally there had been concerns raised to me about the housing service by fellow members. What we didn't anticipate was the extent to which the service had fallen below the standard which the regulator and our tenants are entitled to expect. As we have already heard this evening, the LGA acknowledged the programme of transformation and change which the council has been on since 2022, but at the same time acknowledged that there was still a lot more to do in order to, quote, restore the council to good health and place it on a sound financial footing and ensure resilience, unquote. We were very open with the LGA peer team about our issues and challenges with housing. We did not hide from them, and it is reflected in their report. Chair, there will be some within our community that will wish to make political mischief out of what I have reported tonight. let me be crystal clear. This goes back years. Broken departmental structures, lack of data system integrity, old, expired, unadopted strategic, policy and working instruction documents, lack of scrutiny and oversight, and a need for staff training. That's why an overhaul of the whole housing service is necessary. We are working with the regulator to identify any shortcomings so that we can put them right. That's why we're putting together the Housing Improvement Programme so that we can demonstrate what we are doing and provide assurance that we are putting it right. My commitment and that of this administration is to help to put it right. The second question, Chair. Given the issues that the Council has self-referred to the regulator, are our tenants safe? That is a very complicated question, more so than you would think for something that begs a yes or no answer. And you would be right. The fact that I can't give a straight answer, a straight and immediate yes, is the problem we are facing here. In short, there are a range of factors which form part of a tenant's property and for which the council is responsible for maintaining. While we know that repairs and maintenance activities are regularly carried out across the council's housing stock, we are not able to clearly, objectively evidence this as our data is not consolidated in a structured way or on a per property basis. Think of it, if you will, as a jigsaw puzzle. We have a lot of the pieces, but even though we haven't fully assembled them yet, we do know that there are some pieces that are missing. For example, we have detailed information about our gas and electrical safety and our fire alarms and smoke detectors to give us a degree of assurance that there are no immediate causes for intervention. Where outstanding actions are identified, they are being treated as high priority, with urgent decisions being taken to proceed at speed and rectify any issues noted. We especially have a lot more to do in the areas of Legionella, asbestos, and the treatment of damp and mould. These areas will require significant investment and remediation to address the deficiencies so that we can be sure that our tenants are safe and that we are not shying away from that. We are not complacent about any of this. We recognise the urgency and importance of putting things right. That's why the Housing Improvement Programme is so important. It ensures that nothing gets forgotten or left behind. It creates transparency and accountability. We will also change our quarterly performance reporting at Cabinet to make sure we're focusing on the right things as a council. Third question, how quickly can we turn this around? The Housing Improvement Programme will set out a series of tasks and milestones to capture all the necessary improvements. The detail, and there is a lot of detail, is being worked on at present. It will come to Cabinet in January 2025 for final approval and budget allocation. We will ask Pennington Choices to quality assure it before then. And of course, we will reflect the regulator's feedback. As things currently stand, we want to have completed the first tranche of activities by the end of the financial year, so policies, procedures, training, procurements, and all other preparatory work. We then have a further year from then, so until March 2026, to not just get definitively to 100% compliance in health and safety, plus achievement of data quality and integrity work streams, but to be consistently performing at 100%. It's not enough just to correct our course. We have to maintain it. The service must be revolutionised. So it's my expectation that by this time next year, at the very least, we will have broken the back of the issues, and we expect that the tenant engagement work will be fully embedded in the same timescale. But I won't stand down the housing improvement programme until the board is totally satisfied that we have done all we need to do to put right these historic failings and our job of work is done. And even then, the oversight of Cabinet into the housing service will continue so that it remains front and centre of our commitment as an administration. And the final question, Chair. What are we telling our tenants and how can we reassure them? We're taking action urgently. To begin with, we have launched a housing survey which we are asking tenants to complete to tell us about their experiences. We'll be sharing the results with the regulator as part of their ongoing review of how we are performing. The results of the survey will be made public and shared with the regulator and forms part of an annual process which gives insights into our tenants' experiences of the Council's housing services. Most importantly, we are re-engaging with our tenants and asking them to be part of our improvement journey, to provide their feedback and to help us shape the housing service for the future. We will be seeking to help residents build tenant engagement forums, as well as asking them to be part of our improvement journey, to provide their feedback and to help us shape the housing service for the future. Residents will be represented on the board, which I will chair. We will be working closely with the regulator to report on our progresses, and we'll be creating new forums for tenants to participate in and share their views. In addition, I invite any tenant to contact me directly with their issues and concerns, and I will raise these directly with the Chief Executive. Chair, I am determined that this Council will turn this service around, fix the problems of the past and rebuild trust with our tenants. Tenants are at the heart of this service reset and their voices will be heard. They will shape, influence and drive our next steps, and we will show them the respect that they so deserve. And finally, Chair, I am acutely aware that an inspection and being under such increased scrutiny can be a very stressful and unsettling period for our staff. I wish to take this opportunity to thank them for the good work that they carry out, some of which I have seen firsthand. I ask them to embrace the opportunity before us to transform the housing service into one that we can all be proud of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lillis, for a very comprehensive report. And personally, this is something which is dear to my heart. And I know we've had a lot of meetings, but I can assure everybody this local authority will do what it takes to achieve a housing service which is fit for purpose and something our residents will be proud of. And we will not stop what it takes money-wise to make sure that everything is fit for purpose. And I look forward to being on the housing improvement meetings because it's long overdue, talking to the tenants, which is well overdue. But we're going to move forward, and we're going to move forward fast. We're not going to sit back. So, members, are there any questions? No questions then, members. There are 6 recommendations, and I will read the recommendations out. The recommendations are: 1, to note the contents of this report. 2, to approve the establishment of a housing improvement programme. 3, to approve the establishment of a housing improvement programme board and a housing improvement programme team, and their respective terms of reference set out in Apex 2 and 3. 4, to appoint the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing and Housing as the Chair, and to appoint the Leader of the Council, the Deputy Leader of the Council, Councillor Kate Knott, Councillor Jamie Huntsman, to be members of the Housing Improvement Board. 5, to allocate £165,000 for within the Housing Revenue account to the in the current financial year to fund the initial stages of the housing improvement programme. 6. To note the resources required within the next financial year, identified at this stage is £273,000, can be considered and approved as a part of the HR budget setting process for next year. Members, they are the 6 recommendations. I will move. Can I have a seconder?
I second, Chairman.
Right, thank you there. Members, are the recommendations agreed? Thank you very much, members. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item 7. UK Shared Prosperity Fund update. Councillor Tom Gibson, please introduce your item.
Thank you, Leader. This is a report to provide an update on how UK shared prosperity funding has been used to support a variety of projects in Castle Point, and to seek approval for reassignment of some of the funding between interventions to ensure it is spent by the deadline of 31st of March 2025, by which point any funds uncommitted will have to be returned to the government. For some background, in April 2022, the government launched a £2.6 billion UK shared prosperity fund. Out of this fund, Castle Point was allocated £1 million to be paid to the council over a 3-year period to March 2025. Once the grant was confirmed in December 2022, a report setting out the details of the grant award was brought to Cabinet in January 23. The funding was profiled over 3 years by the government, with 8% assigned to 2022-23, 16% to 23-24, and the remaining 76% to 24-25. All expenditure on people and skills interventions was limited to 24-25 only. The funding is both capital and revenue and can be used against other funding sources. The minimum requirements for capital spend are set out in the report, and the spend profile as agreed by the government for Castle Point is set out in Table 1. Table 2 sets out the allocation of funds as per the original investment plan, with the allocation rules set out in Section 4.9 of the report. The report to Cabinet in January 23 set out at a high level how we anticipated the money would be spent against each of the interventions contained in the investment plan. The following progress has been made in this regard. A small scheme has been procured to improve the entrance way to Rectory Road car park in Hadley, with work due to commence shortly. A significant upgrade to the play space at Thorney Bay Park, with tree planting across the wider site. Part funding of the Council's community engagement system Citizen Space, enabling us to achieve a significant increase in engagement levels in consultation events. Various feasibility studies. Improvements to our Choose Local website and social media to support local high street businesses, along with the improvements to Canvey Market set out in the report to Cabinet in October this year. A Castle Point Business Accelerator providing one-to-one support and group sessions to businesses looking to set up and grow in the borough. A new Employment Plus scheme to provide support for people wishing to re-enter the workforce, with a particular focus towards those not in receipt of job seekers allowance. An upcoming project to provide a retrofit training programme for those looking to retrofit homes and properties to function in a more eco-friendly way. And 20 community grants approved to deliver a range of projects within the community, including refurbishments and improvements to community-run sports and wellbeing facilities, youth clubs, various support programmes, local historical organisations, social inclusion schemes, SEND support, and support for the arts. A full list of these grants can be found in Section 5.4 of the report. All of these projects are community-led and will benefit both members of these groups and the wider Castle Point community greatly, and the Council is proud to support them. Table 3 sets out how the funding allocated has been committed to date. As the table demonstrates, a significant amount of funding against intervention E1, which is improvements to town centres and high streets, remains unspent. This is all capital, and we've explored various options around allocating towards intervention E1. However, the following challenges have presented themselves. Our financial rules mean that capital spends must be £10,000 or more. This has excluded us from offering a shopfront improvement scheme, as these normally offer grants between £1,000 and £5,000. Some of the small-scale projects we initially identified may be capable of being adopted as part of any long-term plan for towns funding awarded to Canvey Island, and some of the larger schemes typically involved Essex County Council land or utilities and would have exceeded the funding available. However, we have been able to identify several unfunded open spaces schemes that could be delivered by March 2025. If the funding for E1 as above was reallocated to intervention E3, which is the creation and improvements to local green spaces, these include the delivery of a new sensory garden in Benfleet for the enjoyment of the whole community, open space and flood alleviation improvements at Woodside Park, footpath improvements including solar lighting through Richmond Park and South Benfleet playing fields, and children's playground improvements at South Benfleet playing fields, and if funding allows, improvements also to playground facilities at Woodside Park. To secure the delivery of these projects, it is recommended that the remaining monies assigned to E1 are reallocated to E3 and spent alongside the remaining allocation to that intervention. The monies assigned to intervention E11, which is capacity building and infrastructure support to local groups, have largely been spent following 4 rounds of seeking grant proposals. There has, however, been an overspend on revenue and an underspend on capital. It is recommended that the underspend on capital is reallocated to intervention E3 to support the delivery of those projects listed in section 7.2 of the report. It is recommended that the overspend on revenue is covered by the current underspend on intervention E14, which is feasibility studies. Once the overspend on E11 is addressed, there remains £35,000 unspent against E14. It is proposed that this remaining revenue resource is used to prepare a tourism and cultural strategy linked to the work undertaken by the Tourism Task and Finish Group reporting to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. This links into the planned Estuary Festival 2025 and increased interest in cultural development within the borough more generally. A small sum of £2,500 remains against intervention E23, which is strengthening local entrepreneurial ecosystems. This is because the business support contract came in slightly below budget. It is recommended, therefore, that this is reassigned to intervention E16, which is open markets and town centre retail and service sector, to deliver further enhancements to the Choose Local provision. Regarding intervention E39, which is green skills services, a contract is in place for part of the funding allocated to this as set out in section 5.1 of the report. Work is ongoing to secure a contract with partners Essex County Council and Thurrock Council to deliver training in relation to electric vehicle charging and other green technology skills. However, in discussion with those working with young people, those the scheme is intended to target, it became clear that some of them do not have the basic skills in regard to English, maths and basic construction to be able to take up these green skill courses. It is therefore proposed that £35,000 unspent against E39 is moved to a new intervention, E34. This would enable us to provide training in functional skills in English, maths and basic construction, with young people walking away with CSCS cards, fully qualified, so that they can work safely in construction and move on to green skills training in the near future. A total summary of the proposed UK SPF allocations or reallocations is shown in Table 4 in the report. This is a good news story and shows a transformed council finally invested in not only its borough, but also its residents. The project has to date seen numerous tangible improvements to community assets and various community groups, and given that the funding is reallocated as per how I've just stated, will deliver real world skills to our young people whilst also greatly enhancing their own career prospects. I'd like to thank Amanda Parrott for compiling this report, as well as the whole team for their hard work on this project so far. The recommendations are set out and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gibson. Members, are there any questions? Any? Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. It would be remiss of me if I didn't make a comment about this. Working with Amanda and her team and Dayton Bells, experts in the field, this authority has managed to set up the Castle Point Business Accelerator, which wasn't done before. It has allowed us to work with our local businesses, high streets, markets. We've just had a recent revitalisation study done for Canvey Market, which has also included a vision for one in Hadley as well, which is ongoing. So I would particularly like to say that this fund has worked very, very well for my portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And it is a really good report, actually. Just looking at all the good causes on the agenda item which have received grant funding. So, you know, there's a lot of hard work gone into this, and I think it's well done to everybody. And I'm sure all these groups are only too pleased that somehow we could have helped them. Members, recommendation 1, I'm going to ask you to note, and then I will move recommendations 2 and 3. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 8, Castle Point Plan Board update. Councillor Warren Gibson, please introduce your item.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is just an update to Cabinet on the progress of the Castle Point Plan Board. As part of the Council's agreement to commence work on the Castle Point Plan in November 2022, it was agreed to establish the Castle Point Plan Board to oversee the work of the Castle Point Plan. This is a cross-party board made of representatives from both parties of the Council. But I think on that point, I mean, at the time, obviously there was 3 cross-party, there was 3 different parties, but as of May this year, the third party are no longer part of this council. Since November 2022, the board has met 37 times and has discussed a range of matters from the types of questions to be posed for engagement, activities, the specifications for evidence-based work, the outcomes of evidence-based work, and the content and wording of policies. Further meetings are scheduled for the remainder of the year and into early 2025. The Castle Point Plan Board was heavily involved in reviewing and finalising the issues and options consultation document that was published for engagement in July of this year. Where meetings have sought direction from the board, notes have been taken and are available to view on the Council's website. Not all meetings are noted, as some have simply been briefings on specific topics. In July of this year, the outcome of the board's work from December 22 to June 24 culminated in the approval of the issues and options consultation document for engagement in accordance with Regulation 18 of the Town and Country Planning Regulations. Since that time, the board have been working on policy direction and reasonable policy alternatives for the thematic components of the plan, including the approach to be taken to economic development, to town centres and retail, to the overreaching strategic policies and to housing policies, but not housing allocations. The initial outcomes of the issues and options consultation have been fed into these discussions as they have been processed. Having had these discussions, officers are in a position to start drafting some of these initial sections of the plan for consideration by the board. Further meetings to discuss other sections are planned. Officers, mainly Amanda Parrott and her team, are also reaching the stage where the outcomes of the consultation have been analysed, providing a clear picture of what local people and other stakeholders, such as the Environment Agency, Historic England, Essex County Council and our neighbours have said. This will enable the board over the autumn period to begin to look at the site allocations to include in, and probably more importantly, to exclude from the plan. Working with officers, the board remains on track to having a draft plan ready by the end of 2024 and is working to ensure that decisions are taken in good time to ensure that associated work essential to the successful progress of the plan, such as the sustainability appraisal, transport assessment and infrastructure delivery plan, can also be completed. I want to clarify at this point that we are not at Regulation 19 and we have not completed a draft Castle Point plan. I say this because of some of the misinformation that is present on social media. And it's not only isolated to social media. In fact, just 2 days ago, the Evening Echo ran an article on Basildon's local plan. And within that article, the Echo stated, and I quote, "Castle Point Council completed its draft local plan last month." This is simply not true. Like I said earlier, we are working on the draft Castle Point plan now. We are at the stage now where we are analysing the feedback from residents who took part in the issues and options consultation over the summer. Once the draft plan is published, then that would be the time to judge the plan board on the sites that are included. I would also think it's important at this stage that we go back to the motion, was in fact my motion some 2 years ago, that actually led to the withdrawal of the previous local plan that included vast areas of our greenbelt that was given up for development. The main elements of that motion were protect and preserve the precious greenbelt in our local area, produce a target housing number that genuinely reflects local need, prioritise brownfield development. I just want to add, Chair, that it remains the intention of the Board to provide a report to Council early in 2025 seeking approval for the publication and submission of a draft Castle Point plan pursuant to Regulation 19. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, are there any questions? Then is that noted, members? Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, the Corporate Performance Scorecard Quarter 24-25. Councillor Mountford, please introduce your item.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would just like to thank Ben Brooks and Josh Hunt for their hard work and efforts. Continue to improve the reporting, presentation and improved frequency of the scorecard. I'd also like to thank all of the individual officers who are working hard to prepare the data earlier to meet our new cadence of this report. The new for this quarter is a summary of the performance, including in the Recovery report in tables on pages 3 to 6. The new way of presenting the summary information allows councillors to review the overall performance and then use the appendix to focus on any areas of interest or concern. Of the 28 indicators reported, 21 are above target, 6 below target, and 1 we are still waiting for the data to be received before publication, which relates to the 2-year rolling performance on speed of planning decisions for non-major applications, with government statistics not yet been updated to include the quarter for this report. The areas of good performance are the major planning applications with a rolling 2-year position. The performance at the end of this quarter was 62%, above government minimum standards for the first time since Q4 22-23. Central Government have confirmed that the service is now no longer under immediate risk of designation as a result of the continued improvement in performance in this area. Leisure memberships, 4,911 at the end of the quarter, which is an increase of 127 members on the previous quarter. Average number of days in sickness, absence per full-time employee staff is long-term sickness. 2.26 days were lost to long-term sickness. This was against a target of 3.4 days and a further reduction improvement from Q1. HR team have been proactively managing long-term sickness absences with service managers. Potential issues: homelessness prevention duties. Just under 58% of those who approached the council were threatened with homelessness are supported into accommodation against a target of 65%. Impact here is a withdrawal of landlords from privately rented sector, although performance has improved from the previous quarter. Homelessness relief duties. The council took all reasonable steps to assist in 39% of homelessness applicants who approached the housing options team against a target of 45% and a second successive quarter of decline in performance. This is due to the nationwide shortage of suitable accommodation, along with an increase in the number of people requiring assistance, impacting the figures. Lastly, the average time taken to relet voids. Average relet time of 30 days against a target of 20 days, although note that this is in a rolling position, so is impacted by the previous performance of the quarter. Hopefully this will be improved in Q2 and expected that further improved performance will be reported in subsequent quarters. The report includes a recommendation that Cabinet gives consideration to performance issues it would like to refer to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for further investigation, and I would suggest that homelessness prevention could be a good area to look at. I think it would be prudent to mention the work currently being undertaken by us by the Social Housing Regulator and noting that to eventually involve Overview and Scrutiny. Thank you. That completes my report, and if there are any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. For members, are there any questions? If not, is that noted? I will also say that if any of the members of the committee feel there are other issues on the performance that want to refer to overview and scrutiny, just let the chief exec or Sonia know. It's something we're keen to do. Keep Grace from scrutiny very busy all the time. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. So moving on.
Chair, if I can just come in.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, there's a second recommendation on page 1 of the report, on the first page of the report, which invites you to not just to note the report, but also to consider any performance you might review. And I believe that Councillor Mountford has proposed that housing and homelessness be referred to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And so, Chair, perhaps if you are in agreement with that and members are in agreement with that, you could move that from the Chair.
Okay. Is that agreed, members?
If you can
Great.
If you could move it first, please, Chair,
Okay.
and then ask for a seconder. Thank you.
Okay, then I move that the homelessness goes to Steve.
And I'll
Oh,
second
you
that.
second that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then is that agreed then, members? Agreed. Overview and Scrutiny Committee, update on the work of the Tourism Task and Finish Group. Councillor Watson, would you like to move your item?
Thank you, Leader. Just to inform you and bring you all up to date, at our meeting on the 6th of November, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee discussed work that had been carried out by the Tourism Task and Finish Group. The group was set up in February and focused on the guiding question, what would you do in a day with friends and family visiting Castle Point? It engaged with officers, stakeholders and partners to scope out opportunities for tourism and for growing the tourism economy in Castle Point. While the Castle Point plan addressed land use, the Task and Finish Group focused on a broader tourism scope, including events and activities. The committee feels that it's important that we look to enhance the promotion of our local heritage, to develop events and local trials. The tourism sector within the borough is showing steady growth, particularly within the hospitality and food service sector. But there are other development opportunities for tourism within Castle Point. To that end, I would urge you to approve the commissioning of the consultation to produce a tourism culture strategy for the borough, and that the work of the Tourism Task and Finish Group be included in the specification for that strategy. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Members, any questions? No questions, then I'd quite happily move recommendations 1 to 3 set out in paragraph 2.1. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, members. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. Okay, report from the Climate and Policy Scrutiny Subcommittee, Biodiversity Net Gain Update. Councillor Edwards, would you like to introduce your report?
Thank you, Leader. You have before you a report from our meeting on the 15th of October, updating on the Council's biodiversity net gain approach. The subcommittee is recommending to Cabinet that it should prepare a biodiversity report incorporating a range of biodiversity net gain measures. This is option 3 in your report. In addition, as work is already well advanced, the subcommittee is recommending that the Cabinet also completes the suggested guidance document for developers as part of the measures in producing the biodiversity report, which incorporates option 2 in the report you've got in front of you. The rationale for this is that it will help encourage good biodiversity net gain practice in the interim while the full biodiversity report is produced. There is new burdens funding provided by the government for biodiversity net gain, and that can be used to secure the necessary ecological expertise necessary to support the development of the report and an action plan. The cost implications of this will be reported to you once that document is drafted. Just to report a little more detail on what we looked at, in reviewing the Council's approach, we raised several specific questions. There was concern raised about the prevailing issue of abuse of the biodiversity net gain provisions because of the increasing number of small self-build projects which are not subject to the provisions. But fortunately, we were reassured that due to us having implemented the CIL, which is the Community Infrastructure Levy, that provides the Council with additional checks, balances and powers compared to areas that haven't implemented CIL. So that was another good reason for having brought that on board. The subcommittee also asked about the implications of the revised National Planning Policy Framework. We were somewhat reassured to hear from the officers that there will be overlaps and interconnections between the Local Nature Recovery Strategy, which we've previously reported on, which will serve to link the elements together. And finally, the committee discussed the need to promote tree and shrub planting as part of the strategy and asked that guidance be incorporated into the Castle Point plan or through initiatives such as an urban greening policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Members, are there any questions? Okay then, members. There's a recommendation 1 is set out in paragraph point 2. Members, is that noted? I will move recommendation 2. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Is that agreed then, members? Okay then, members. That concludes the formal business for this evening. I declare the meeting closed at whatever time it is. I can't see from it. Right, thank you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.